All right, let's get started talking about section 1.2 on fractions. So our ultimate goal in this section is to be able to simplify fractions and solve equations with fractions. But before we jump straight to that, I first want to talk some about just adding fractions and multiplying fractions and doing all of the usual operations with fractions that just have numbers in them. So I want to do something like 1/4 minus 2/9 plus 5/6. And I want to make sure we know how to do just this, just to review before we jump into fractions that have variables in them. And so the thing you want to remember when you're combining fractions is that if you're adding or subtracting the fractions, you need to find a common denominator. And so that is, you need to find a number that both 4 and 9 go into. And so that number in this case would be 36. So I really want to rewrite 1/4 as, instead of being 1/4, I want to write this as 9/36 minus, and then 2/9, instead of writing it as 2/9, I want to rewrite it as 8/36. And I'll just leave the 5/6 over here for a second. Okay. What really happened here is that I said, okay, I want to put 1/4 over a denominator of 36. And the way I did that was to multiply the numerator and denominator by 9. And the reason why that's an okay thing to do is because 9 divided by 9 is 1. So I'm really just multiplying by 1, which I'm allowed to do. Likewise, when I had the 2/9 and I wanted to write that over a denominator of 36, I multiplied it by 4/4, which is where I got 8/36. Now that I've done that, though, I can combine these two fractions because they have the same denominator. Like, this is 9/36, this is 8/36. And so when I combine them, I will get 9 minus 8, which is just 1/36. Okay, plus, and then 5/6. And now I just have to combine these two fractions. And so again, I have to find a common denominator. Now, it might be tempting when you first see this to find a common denominator of 6 times 36. But that's actually way overkill because 6 already goes into 36. So actually, I can leave the 1/36 exactly as it is, and I can rewrite the 5/6 so that it is also over 36. Namely, I can say I need to multiply this by 6/6. When I do that, I will get 30/36. Okay. So that means this is the same thing as 1/36 plus 30/36. Okay, and that will be 31/36. Okay, and so that will be our final answer of writing this original combination of fractions as a single fraction. Okay, so adding and subtracting fractions is by far the most complicated. We'll do examples of the other operations with fractions just for practice. But the others will be simpler. All right. So the first thing that involves fractions that I want to remind you about is negative exponents. So namely, if you ever have something written to the -1 power, I want you to remember that's always the same thing as 1 over the something. So 6 to the -1 power, that's exactly the same thing as 1 over 6. If you multiply fractions, you multiply straight across. So namely, 2 times 5 is 10. 3 times 8 is 24. And so 2/3 times 5/8 is 10/24. It's as easy as that. Now, I will note that this is not a proper fraction the way it is written. And what I mean by that is that there is something in common between the numerator and denominator. Namely, both of them have a 2 in them. And so we would not give this as an answer on a homework or test question. We would simplify this fraction by dividing that 2 out, which would leave us with 5/12. So that will be our answer. Something that often comes up is that you will have something that's not a fraction multiplied by a fraction. So for example, you will have something like 3 times 2/5. And when you see this, it's not immediately clear what it is you're supposed to do. But what I want you to do when you see something like 3 times 2/5 is to rewrite the 3 as a fraction. Namely, I can always rewrite 3 as the fraction 3 divided by 1. Once I've done that, I can now use the previous rule. Namely, I can multiply straight across. 3 times 2 is 6. 1 times 5 is 5. So 3 times 2/5 is 6/5. All right. What about fraction division? So if I have something like the fraction 2/3 divided by the fraction 4/5, what happens? And the answer is we change this into a multiplication. So we take the 2/3 out of the numerator, and then we just multiply it, not by 4/5, but by the reciprocal of 4/5. So that is, I flip this fraction upside down. Okay, so 4/5 becomes 5/4. And then I can multiply straight across. So I will get 10 over 12. Like in this earlier example, I can actually notice there's a common factor here between the 10 and the 12 of 2, so I can simplify this, and this will work out to be 5/6. Okay, to wrap this up, I just wanted to do examples of division where one of the things is a fraction and one of them isn't, just so that we're crystal clear on how all the possible combinations of this work. Okay, so let's do 3 divided by 2/3. So I'm going to rewrite this 3 as a fraction again. So this will be 3 over 1 divided by 2 over 3. And then I want to remember that when I divide by 2/3, it's the same thing as multiplying by 3/2. So this will be 3 over 1 times 3 over 2. And that will be 9/2. Last example for this video. If I want to take 3/2 and I want to divide that by 3, I again probably want to first rewrite this 3 as a fraction, as 3 over 1, so that I can rewrite this as 3/2 times, and then the reciprocal of 3 over 1, which is 1 over 3. And so this will become 3 over 6, although there's a common factor of 3 here, so that is 1/2, and that is that. All right, we're going to wrap up there for now. I'll see you in the next video when we'll talk about adding and multiplying and dividing fractions that have variables in them.